Hey guys, Jake Blow here, the Habitat Pro. What I'm going to do today is offer you some insight into a conversation, a video recommendation conversation that I'm sending to a client that just had timber harvest done and has some suggestions from the NRCS on adding some conifer diversity to his area. However, I don't necessarily agree with what they've got him doing, so I'm giving him some recommendations to adjust that plan so that he doesn't go backwards on time and money and effort. So that's what this video is going to be about. If this is of any help to you, I really appreciate your support. If you'd hit that like and subscribe, that is what helps you guys pay us back, so to speak, for giving you the ideas that might help on your property, kind of like free consulting. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button, and it does help us out, but it doesn't cost you anything. We really appreciate that support. All right, we're going to talk a little bit of evergreen planting after timber harvest here. So this is a file that is your new imagery. Okay, so we're seeing both your elevation as well as the thinning areas, the clear cut with reserve areas, things like that are on here. So what we're going to be mindful of is the fact that we do have a total acreage here. If you tally these all up, we're at a little over 3.8, so that's a 6, and then 2 more is 8, 10 more there is 18, and then 2 more is 20. We got another 7.5, 27.5, and another 1.5 acres or so. So we're pushing 30 acres of total space here, but we've got a lot of regenerating stumpage in here, and we've got a lot of aspen regen that comes back thicker than dog hair when you do it in the winter. So what we first have to figure out is what acreage is available to increase our evergreen diversity, because you have none. So all of these areas would benefit from some evergreen diversity. However, where there is mostly aspen regeneration, like this north-facing slope where the aspen did really well, and the winter harvest is going to make that regenerating stand very thick, there's no sense in planting evergreens or any other tree in there, because the aspen just is not going to allow that to grow. Aspen is not a good competitor for anything. So what we want to do is we want to come up here in the remaining higher elevations looking for hardwood regeneration, where it's mainly open right now a year after our clear cut with reserves. And we want to look around these pockets that they left, and we want to look in the open areas and see where we've mainly got hardwood stumpage coming back. So we don't want to compete with aspen whatsoever. We did talk about having a food plot down here on this little base right here, so this might only be an acre, but it might be a value to get some evergreens here, especially because your road is here for screening. So that might be a pocket that you want to do. We definitely want to be up here on this hilltop, and we want to probably use your mulcher on all of this stuff, because it's just going to be trash. I would not go anywhere near bare root trees on this type of thing, because you're dealing with regenerating root systems already a year ahead of you. And I would, as a general rule, plant fewer older trees. Okay, never plant bare root seedlings, especially when there's already competition. It's just not worth your effort. It's not worth the work for the result you're going to get, for the survival rate you're going to get out of it. Plant a minimum of a 2-year-old tree with dirt on the roots. I sell those in 18 count trays. I get those. Your cost is probably going to be right around 65-ish per tray, right around $3.25 a tree, $3.50 a tree, and those are going to be a couple feet tall, so they'll be able to get up and start going. That's a fantastic habitat tree. But the flip side of that is, you still, even if you buy good trees, you don't have anywhere to move up in here, because this is all logging trash. So what you need to do with your mulcher is you need to come in here and grind yourself out some paths and just scissor your way down these slopes, down these hillsides, and make yourself just wiggle through the stumps. Don't get any, don't make it a more scientific project than it is. Just give yourself a way to move around with a side-by-side so you can plant right along that trail in the mulch. You'll just use a your auger or a planting bar or a shovel to find your soft spots where there's no stumpage underneath, and you just keep on doing it. And if you follow the contours of the land, you're going to have really good results and a very comfortable planting project. And you're going to want to stay away from any aspen regen. When you get to areas like this, you can look for these humps like that and these points, because that's going to be areas where deer want to lay down depending on the wind direction, like we talked about. So if you give them a good base of evergreens up on the ridge top, and then you parallel the hillside with your mulcher coming down, they're going to love you for it. Okay. Anything you can do to parallel those hillsides is going to give them the opportunity to bed on the downwind side of evergreens, looking through scattered plantings of evergreens. And then over here was your only space, your only real acreage, where we got this neighbor who, decided to put a corn plot on state land and uses it as his own, that wonderful dude. So what you're going to do over here is you're just going to need to screen this off. I would use balsam fir in a very tight planting, or eastern red cedar. You are in the Northwoods, so balsam fir is probably the best way to go. It is a future timber tree that people in the area are used to taking for timber eventually, but it's one of those that keeps its needles when planted really tightly together. You can plant that tree. I mean, I've seen stands that are wonderful that are that have a stem every foot, and they're just densely, tightly packed, and it's a solid wall of green that nobody can see through. So that's what I would probably do along this line, is a nice dense planting of I think there's only about an acre and a half here, so I would be in that 200, maybe 250 tree per acre range over here of balsam fir. And then we've got a little nugget of a food plot coming up here for you, and then you've got a stand location over here as well. So there's areas here though that are just fantastic for this, and being as it's some north facing slopes, that's going to be your best for growing timber in the future as well. Right here is another north facing slope, so again, same thing, just paralleling the boundaries, snaking your way through stumpage right here, giving yourself a smattering of evergreen trees and a very scattered planting all the way down those contours. Give yourself a nice comfortable spot to work with the mulcher, buzz up the slash on the ground, and then just plant right into it wherever it's soft enough to take a shovel or take an auger, whatever you want to do. Those earth augers from Harbor Freight are fantastic. I've put in a lot of holes with those things. Now, when you're talking about how many trees, then I personally would not commit to more than like 1,000 trees. The general advice is plant fewer older trees for the same amount of money. Okay, so if you're set on spending $1,000 on trees, then buy $1,000 worth of older trees. And in this case, what I would probably do, since it's just deer habitat, it's not a decorative landscaping project or something where you need the big ones. What I would probably do is just stick with those 18 count trays. Some places call them quart liners. If you want to get them from me, you already know my cost. It's going to be roughly $325, $350 a tree. If you're ordering in bulk, of course, that's not for the mom and pop that show up and want onesies and twosies, But for the most part, that's what I would do on all of these areas, just to increase your diversity. But if you're committing to planting more than 1,000 trees, I just think that's not necessary for what you have up here. If you want to do another batch of those in future years, when you see that there are some really light areas that are sparsely populated with hardwood regen, you can go ahead. But we're just increasing the diversity here, and we're staying well away from really weak young bare root trees. So most of what we plant, if we plant good trees, are going to survive. So just put them where you want them, plant good trees, strong trees from the beginning with dirt on the roots, and you'll have a lot of good luck. If you want to stick to the pine species, we want to stay away from white pine, just because that is a food source for deer, and you don't want to commit to any bud capping. That's a maintenance project that is not worth it. If you want pine on the property, I would stick to Norway, also called red pine. If you want spruce, I would stick with the white spruce. If you want them to get taller, I would stick with Black Hills spruce if you want to stay branchy, and those are really tough trees that are beautiful. And then if you wanted to go with a denser packed planting area where you can really stack them in tight to one another and have them keep their needles, then I would be with the balsam fir. Give me a shout if I can be of any help to you. Really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.